Hello, everyone. Welcome to Voices of the Goddess podcast, where we empower, inspire, and uplift women to become the goddesses they are meant to be. I am Julietta, and I am a physical therapist. They call me the Magical PT, and I help mostly women, but men too, balance their body, mind, and spirit so that your body's there to support you to do all the crazy, fun, and wonderful things that you want to do. I'm also an artist, and I paint and I work with crystals. And I think, well, everything that I do is about healing. Healing people on every different level, and which is why I do so many different things, because it's healing doesn't our healthcare isn't really about healing, and that's my shift, is to look at healing from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm joined here by my amazing sidekick, Allison. Can you tell our audience who you are?
Hello, everybody. It is wonderful to be here today. And I like how you said that about healing, because I agree with you. I find that our healthcare system isn't always about healing, in the everyday stuff, right?
I call it a disease management system rather than
Yeah.
It's not really about health, but
anywho, that's a whole nother subject. So my name is Allison Mancini, and I'm a holistic nutritionist. I am excited to be here today. I am a mom of two young adult children, a 24-year-old son and a 22-year-old daughter. I have been married for almost 28 years and live in South Florida, but originally a Michigander. And I don't think Julietta said it, but she's originally a Wisconsinite, right?
Yeah.
So Wisconsin and Michigan, here we are. We both definitely Midwesterners at heart, and we always both refer to those as our homes. And I just am super passionate about making sure that women have the tools that they need to stay as healthy as they can when it comes to their nutrition. And I'm a big believer, that kind of women, we rule the world. So, when we are being healthy and eating well, it trickles into our families, our children, our spouses, our partners, our friends. We really can be an example to those around us. So that's what I do.
So, and speaking of healing, and I spoke to, even though I'm a physical therapist and I work on the body, sometimes emotional stuff comes up that is what is interfering with our body's ability to function optimally.
Right.
And so last week I had an interesting thing happen with a client that was here on my table. And the topic of self-love came up. One of my side note things is I'm always like, if everybody fully loved themselves, all the problems that we have in the world would disappear.
Yeah.
But so anyway, we're talking self-love, and this is someone who's done a lot of work on herself, and she knows that. But no matter how much work you've done, self-love is one of those things that you get to keep working on. And as we're having this conversation, I have music playing in my office through my treatment table, and Sade comes on with "This Is No Ordinary Love."
Nice.
And we both heard it, and we were like, wow, the love that you have for yourself is not an ordinary love. It's a special love. Mm-hmm. And then as I'm listening, I had this thought that what if we listen to, we always hear love songs and we think about romantic love with somebody else. What if we listened to every love song and heard it as it being about the love affair that we have with ourselves?
I'm going to have to start looking at that. That's really cool.
And so I had that thought. And then 2 days later, I had another client on the table that also self-love came up. And as we're there, talking about it, once again, Sade comes on. But this time, she said, I couldn't love you more. Love yourself maximally. That there's no possibility to love yourself more, because you love yourself the most absolute possible. And so that's my gift to everybody right now. Listen to love songs you're singing them to yourself, from yourself. So love yourself.
need to like download Sade's songs. Like I loved her. She was
Oh my
awesome.
God, what like incredible voice, incredible presence. Like, yeah, love
Strong
her.
woman. Love her. Yeah, I know. And she sings love songs. So it's perfect. No, I think that's really cool. And that's a really great perspective. We do always listen. Like I actually stopped listening to love song. Like I can think of times when I was like dating somebody in high school and it was a horrible breakup and I didn't want to listen to love songs because it just totally depressed me and made me cry and so sad. But what if we looked at it a different way, that those love songs are really to us, to ourselves. And it is really important that we learn to love ourselves. You know, what's that saying? If you don't love yourself, it's very hard to love others and those people around you. So, and that's the hard thing. I mean, listen, we all have a lot of baggage, a lot of stuff we've been through. But I think it's really important. And I love how you said it's a process. Like even you have patients that work through those things regularly. It's never ending. It's something you constantly are working at and you get better at, which leads me back to our not being perfect, because you know you're never going to attain that perfection, but to keep working through it is such a great journey. And I think the journey is what we need to focus on.
You do your best that you can do where you are at the moment, until you can do better, and then you do better. And who said that? Is that, I feel like that was Maya Angelou, but I could totally be wrong. But you do your best until you know better, and then you do better.
It's true. And that's really a good way to look at it, because you know what, I beat myself up when I make mistakes. If I do something wrong or I make a mistake or say something wrong or don't do something I said I was going to do because something happened, you know, I beat myself up for it. But that's a really good way to look at it. You do your best until you know better, and then you do better.
Absolutely.
I love that. All right.
Are we ready to bring our guest on?
Yes, and I'm looking at love songs in a whole new way now. So thank you for
that.
Yay! All right.
All right. So super excited to have Tulsi on with us today. So let's bring her in. Hi, Tulsi.
Hi, Tulsi.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show. Can you please introduce yourself? Let our audience know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
My name is Tulsi Desai. I'm a mom, first of all, to a 7.5-year-old. He thinks he's almost 8, so we take it as 8 years old. I'm a physical therapist, and I specialize in women's health, pelvic floor, postpartum, anything women's health, menopause, bone density changes, breast health, so many things that women have health issues unique to them, and we treat them as men, basically. Like the prescriptions, medication prescriptions, and everything is based on man's body. So this is just something a lot of people have no awareness about, and I am very passionate about empowering women. Now, physical therapy is a tool that I use to empower them with their body and how they view their health, because a healthy body leads to a healthy life. You can't be sick, bedridden, and then go do things you want to do in the world or go take care of your family when you're not feeling well. So that's one way of empowering women. But eventually I realized I was putting myself in a box of being a physical therapist only, versus I have so many other qualities and strengths that I can still extend, which I was extending in my treatment room one-on-one, but it was so limited. And I always wanted to like help bigger population and have a bigger reach, and I didn't know how. And COVID just shook up everybody's world, told people what wasn't working, and kind of, I think, hopefully everybody questioned what they were doing in their life. I did. Like, what am I doing? What I really want to do? And am I on the right path? Is this satisfying me? And the answer I got was, I love being physical therapist. It is very satisfying treating patients and making difference, life-changing difference in individually. But I also want to impact people at a bigger level, because I have a lot to share, and not sharing is basically not serving. So many women who don't have access to the kind of knowledge and information and independence and the mental freedom that I have, considering societal, religious, cultural conditioning, a lot of times they give away their power not knowing what I know, right? So I wanted to share all of that. And that's where I decided that I'm going to be a spiritual empowerment coach. I don't and the reason I call it spiritual, because it's about yourself, your relationship with your higher self, your soul, whatever you want to call your God, rather than make it about religion and rituals and then get into that bureaucracy of the system. So it's your relationship with your inner self and your higher self, and that's where, and that has, learning that for myself has significantly impacted my life, and the state of being, and how much at peace I am every day, every moment. And all I want to teach other women how to find that state, regardless of what's going on in your outside world. So my I think the simplest way I can explain it is, your outside world is the mirror of your inside. It's a mirror reflecting what's within you already. So if you can change what's within you, everything else will start changing automatically. So yeah, I'm here as a woman empowerment coach, but I'm also a physical therapist.
And I love everything you have to say. And just, I think a lot of us, as you know, I'm a physical therapist too, and absolutely love what I do. You know, nothing brings me greater joy than empowering the person lying on my table to reclaim the power over their body. But yes, that way we're only impacting one person at a time. And, you know, so that this podcast is part of, you know, being able to reach out and empower people on a grander scale. So, I'm like, you're speaking my language.
That's why we connected. And even with that, like the person's on your table and you're going to help them, when they don't have the mindset, what your skills are still not going to help that person. I would have two identical patients with same problem, and one will make amazing recovery and the other won't. What's the difference? A lot of times, more than even their genetics, it's the mindset of where they are coming from and how receptive they are of what I'm going to offer. So even in my physical therapy business, I realized it was me sharing that mindset change first before I could share the physical healing treatment that will be received the way it should be received. So I think every it just impacts every aspect of our life, including our bodily healing and well-being.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing, and I'm sure you've experienced it many times in the clinic as well, like if the patient believes you can help them, you will. And if the patient believes you can't help them, you won't. No matter, doesn't matter how amazing your skills are, how much experience you have. If your patient doesn't believe that you're going to be able to help them, you're not going to be able to help. So.
It's so true, and I had to learn that, because as a clinician, and when you're new, you want to heal everybody. You think you can heal everybody, but you're only triggering healing in them by giving them information and tips and tricks and techniques. But at the end, they are healing themselves, and that's something that's distinction. I had to learn that and realize I'm just a medium helping them. They are helping themselves, and if they are not willing to help themselves, if they have secondary gains by staying sick, whatever their reasons are, I can only do so much. So those are the conversations I first have. And there are some patients, now I start telling patients, look, I'm not the right person for you. Maybe you should go somewhere else, because it's not going to serve either of us. And maybe they'll get better message from somebody else, and they'll maybe have better outcome. I'm not communicating what needs to be communicated. Whatever the reasons are, we are just not a good match at that point. But it's not. It rarely happens. I try my best to help them understand from different perspective and let them decide for themselves.
Yeah. Like how I always, you know, I tell my clients, I don't heal you, you heal you.
Yeah.
And I kind of equate it like healing is a journey, and I'm like the tour guide. You get to do the journey, and I'll help guide you along the way and show you the path to healing, but I can't actually do the healing for you.
Yeah.
And
And the way clinicians are trained in Western medicine, which I'm trained in Western medicine in general, even though I have Eastern roots, and I was exposed to other alternative medicine modalities, but my basic training and conditioning as a clinician is Western medicine. And there is a lot of I think the perspective is you are treating a patient, and then it's a very humbling experience to realize you're only triggering the healing. You're not You're not healing them without their consent, without their permission.
No.
Yeah.
I'll get to check our egos at the door. Awesome. Well, you and I could talk about this kind of stuff forever because we're on the same page about that. But we need to dive into our questions.
Yes.
And so our first question is, what is your superpower, or what would you choose it to be?
Okay, so when I was thinking about it, that what do I want to say? What's really my superpower? And I have a lot of superpowers, so I can't deny that. It was difficult to narrow it down. So my first response was my strength and courage. A lot of people have said that. I know it. I can be very strong, but not defensively strong, like inner strength. I have gone through a lot, and I have still not compromise my standards in those moments, and that requires strength and courage to face adversity and still stand your ground. And I am able to offer that to others, my friends, relatives, or my patients, and I can extend that to others because it's already within me. I have practiced it so much. But even more than that, I think my heart, my empathy, is actually even a bigger strength. That literally, or superpower, that literally gives me the strength. Without that, I think the strength would still be weak and vulnerable. So I think my empathy and being able to feel other people's situation, which is not healthy if you don't have healthy boundaries. And I burnt myself out in the past, and I had to realize that there are times I'll have to create healthy boundaries and realize this is not my place to intervene, or unless somebody asks for it. Even if I know I can guide them, I can advise them or whatever, I need to stay out of their business because I'm not invited. But I can feel a lot, and I had to master that first before it can serve anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. Like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, if you know people who are very empathetic, or if you have children who are empathetic, teaching them boundaries from young age and would serve them long way. I wish I knew that, and I had to learn it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's part of like what makes a good healer is being able to feel what others are going through. And I've been doing this a little bit longer than you, I think, Tulsi.
Yeah.
30 years. And I think one of the biggest lessons for me, though, because everything is energy, I'm sure you can relate to that as well. So initially, when I learned that I put up the boundaries, put up the protective bubble. But what served me even more was learning that everything flows. And so, like, instead of having to, it was like work to put up that barrier and that protective bubble. But when I learned like to just let it flow, so like it could flow through me so I could experience it, but it keeps on flowing and it doesn't have to stick with me. It just flows on through. And just for myself, that was greater ease than putting up a barrier, because putting up the barrier was work. Just letting everything flow was so much easier. But
and I think that comes with experience, being able to let it flow, but still be objective and not let it stay within you and affect you. And that comes with time. But I think it still starts with creating boundaries, understanding that, and then figure out what works for you, as we all are very unique. But for me, what was happening, and I think it's a very multidimensional topic that we are discussing. So we probably possibly can't cover everything. But I also feel when you're very empathetic and you can feel a lot of things. In my case, I started over giving, because that's how I burnt out. It wasn't the feelings that burnt me out. It's my reaction to the feelings, and not having boundaries on how I reacted, how much I gave, how much I was keeping for myself, or versus emptying my cup fully for others and then not have anything available. And that's what I mean by boundaries, that love yourself first and care for yourself first, and keep your cup full so it overflows for others, rather than completely depriving yourself from what you deserve in the first place. And understanding that if I can't serve myself, I'm not available to serve anybody else anyway. So why even go down that route? and these are just like a lot of realizations in the journey of understanding myself and who I am and how I exist in this physical world. But yeah, I am big into energy, and everything is energy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
All
that
right. We're like talking so much, like
Yeah.
we're not going to get through our questions. What did you want to say, Alison, though?
go ahead. It's totally fine. Go ahead.
We got to get to the next question is, Tulsi, what is either your favorite book or a book that has greatly influenced your life?
Okay, so yeah, this is my favorite book. You're a Bat.
I love that book.
I love that book.
It's great.
That has really triggered a lot of questions within me, and then I think it set me on a different path. And a lot of things I knew or I was aware about, but then I didn't. This clarified, gave me the clarity and connected the dots.
Which also for our audience, because we held up the book but didn't say what it was. So
You Are a Badass: How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness by Jen Sincero.
So I actually think I read that book like the year before we went into the pandemic, which in my head, the pandemic was just like last week, but I realize it's been like a long time. Right. But it was like the year before we went into the pandemic. I can remember sitting at my kitchen table because I like to sit and read at my kitchen table because I have these nice big windows and I can see the outside, and I like being outside, and it's too hot here most of the time to be outside. So I had this like moment where I went, oh my gosh, like, holy cow. Like it would, just like you just said, Tulsi, it just like set you on a totally different path. That was one of the books that really went, oh wow, like didn't even look at it that way. Like it totally set me on a different path. And I think honestly, because Julietta, as you all know, she's already been on that journey for a long time. I have not been as long as she has. So that kind of really I was already drawn to Julietta anyways when we first met 6 years ago, but that even made that more so. And the conversations have grown and my journey has grown. And I think I've grown over the last few years. And that was an awesome book. So if I were to say one book that probably influenced, I would agree. That's an amazing book.
Yeah. For me, I don't even have to think. That book that's it.
Yeah. It's a great book. Yeah. And you know what I like about that book is that it's an easy read. It's easy to follow. She explains really well. You're not left there trying to figure it out. Like it's very like in layman's term. Yeah.
I have gifted it to some of my patients who are going through a rough time. And I felt like even a chapter out of it, if that helps them, they don't have to read the whole thing. I've gifted it to some of my family members, my mom. I don't know if they read it, but I've planted the seed, and then it will serve them when it's right time for them.
Yes, I agree. It's a great book. Absolutely. I would love to meet her. Jen Sincero. Is it Sincero? Sincero. Yeah. Putting that out there. Would love to meet you, Jen Sincero, if you want to come on our podcast.
Maybe she wants to be on our podcast. How awesome would that be?
Oh, I would love it.
Let's put that out there. We're going to have her as a guest one day.
There you go. Yes, she is a guest.
Awesome. So the next question is, and this kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier, self-care, and we all need to do it. So what is your favorite self-care practice?
Keeping myself grounded. So it could be meditation. It could be taking a bath if I need to just cleanse off myself from energies I don't want to store. It could be going for a massage, which I generally don't find enough time to go schedule a massage session. So most self-care is just being mindful. In between patients, I'll just do some deep breaths and like really ground myself and stay in my body and not overthink, and because that's where I stress out, when I overthink. And I think a lot of women do that. So staying grounded and just using different techniques to stay grounded. That helps me with being mindful about my day, moment to moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you point out that it's about being grounded, and there's many ways to achieve that. I've been asked often, how do you ground? And there's so many different ways that you can ground. Like you said, doing breath work. I use crystals. I do, energy. There's so many different ways to
walking
get
on sand.
grounded.
Yeah.
I like walking in the grass barefoot. Yeah.
Except for not in Florida, because then we got fire.
And it's not as soft. Our grass
the grass isn't nice down here.
I would prefer sand over grass anytime. I can at least see the bugs.
That's true too. It's true too. But Nick just like planted some grass and he used like a different mixture, and it's actually like the soft grass from the Midwest.
I might have to come walk on your grass.
Nice.
I miss that. Like when I go home to Wisconsin, I have to find time. Well, except for when I'm home in the winter time, you can't really do it, but walking barefoot in the grass. And even I don't know if anybody saw it, like last time I was home, there was this hailstorm, and
oh yeah,
I saw that. Yeah.
After it ended, like we were making dinner, and my dad's like, "Go out to the garden and pick some green beans," and I ran out in my bare feet because I wanted to feel the grass. And I was like walking on hail. It was so cold, but I didn't care because I was on the grass because it feels so good. Anyway, that was definitely grounding and
yeah,
for sure.
Feeling your body, feeling your feet, soft grass, cold hail. It was all cool. All right. And our fourth and final question is, and Tulsi, this came out of, we did some research before we started the podcast and seeing what women wanted help with. And one of the big things that comes up, like when we're busy, powerful women getting stuff done, we need accountability. So how do you create accountability in your world?
Okay, so this is not going to be a standard expected answer that generally everybody would be like, oh, I write down my goals and blah, blah, whatever they do. That generally doesn't work for me. So I have spent my entire life trying to make those things work standard on paper, whatever everybody recommends for productivity and highly profitable people do this, and just doesn't work for me. Then not being able to do that, I try to be hard on myself and push myself more. And it was just a cycle that made me procrastinate more because I just felt bad about myself not being able to do that and forcing myself to do something that doesn't come to me naturally. So what I realized is just being in the present moment, literally this moment, not even a second before and not even a second after, because that's future I can't control. The past I can't change. So present moment is where I can make any change I want to make. So I'm not going to worry about waking up early tomorrow. I'm going to worry about what can I do right now that serves me the best. And if that means go take a nap because you're not going to be productive anyway while you're surviving on 2 hours of sleep, that's going to serve me better. And that's my productivity, actually. But when I wake up and then at night I can't fall asleep, I'm a night owl, then I'll spend just 2 hours at night finishing everything I was supposed to do during the day because I am in my optimum state and in a flow state, and I work best at night. So I'm still trying to be a morning person. But what I've stopped doing is being hard on myself. If I don't wake up on time, I generally wake up on time if I have commitment to somebody. So I woke up on time today to be here. But if I didn't have this, I would wake up at 10, 11, but then I'll work until 3 o'clock at night if I feel like it. So just allowing things to flow, but to be able to do that, it's for me being in the present moment gives me more accountability than making a to-do list that I never get around finishing. I still have to-do lists. It's because then at least I have visual reminder of what things need to be done and I don't completely forget it, but that's not what keeps me accountable.
I love that. And like talked about this on another podcast. Like I really struggle using planners and stuff like that. It doesn't come naturally to me, and maybe I do get to just let it go. We'll see.
I have a hard time with like not the goal setting. Like I can set goals and put them in paper. Like I learned from someone Julietta and I know mutually, Barbara, using like this whole like goal planner thing. And I'm a planner girl. I love my date book and my Google Calendar. I'm all about that. And I started using this yearly, monthly goal planner thing that was recommended to me. And I got through the first 2 months of using it and I haven't looked at it since. And that was back in February.
Yeah,
so I'm like, and I appreciate you saying that, Tulsi, because I beat myself up over it. It sits there. I'm staring at it right now. It's sitting on my desk and I'm staring at it and I feel guilt every time I look at it. I need to take it off my desk and put it on a shelf because it's not doing me any good sitting there and I'm not using it. So I just need to put it away.
And there are times I just have to accept I'm never going to use it. That's not for me. So that way I take the
Yes.
pressure off myself. The
Right.
other thing, when you keep seeing it and you have this thought, and that's a logical thought you have, but subconsciously you're like, I spent money on that. I'm wasting money. I'm good for nothing. I could do better. And
Yeah.
all that negative chatter and self-loathing that happens
Yep.
subconsciously, you're not even like making connection to it, but that's how the feeling changes. And then you feel really yucky about yourself.
Yep. Yep.
And that doesn't serve you. So my thing always is, I'm struggling right now. What can I do to serve myself best? And that's go make a tea, drink tea for 5 minutes downstairs, and then come back and then see what you feel like doing. I mean, there are going to be times we have deadlines and we just have to force ourselves to do it.
Right. And
That's not my general state of being anymore.
right. And not to say that I don't like, I use to-do lists and I use a planner. My issue was making these goals. Like I know what my goals are. I know what I want to, like Juliet and I talk about, I know what I want to accomplish by the middle of December. It's a goal. Do I need it in writing? Not necessarily. Do I need to break it down? Yes, I do, but I can break it down and just have it in my planner. Like today, by Monday, I need to get this done to get to that goal. Like I'm okay with that. So I'm not like anti-goal setting. That modality did not work for me. So and I need to get it off my desk.
Rather than following a rigid structure, you're following your inner guidance to achieve the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Love it.
Thank you. That made me feel a lot better. Thank you, Tulsi.
That approach was a big relief for me when I started adopting it. It will make you question yourself until you get used to it. So don't get surprised if you feel resistance while you try to implement something new.
Yeah. I did learn though about 3 or 4 years ago, and maybe partially, I have older kids and one of the things I used to beat myself up, I do not give myself a hard time anymore. Like you just said, if I feel like I need to take a nap, I take a nap. Like if I feel I just need a half an hour just of doing nothing, I do it now because I know that I'll be more productive when I come out of that than if I had fought it. And I wish I would have thought, so if you're a young mom here listening to this and you need a nap, go take a nap because you just need it and you'll be more productive on the flip side by doing it. So yeah, I agree.
Naps solve so many problems, even for adults, not just for kids.
That's right. I mean, come on. What culture is it that they do afternoon siestas? I mean, come on. We should be doing them every day.
I'm nodding, but I'm not a nap person.
I know you're not. I know
never have been. So, but taking breaks, it
doesn't have to be a nap.
And taking a nap is grounding, actually.
Well, it's like Tulsi even said, and we had a previous guest said, even just sitting there and having a cup of tea and just being in the moment of having that cup of tea can be helpful and ultimately productive. So,
okay. Hey, time has flown by on this one. So we need to wrap it up.
Okay.
What's your takeaway from this podcast, Allison?
So I will say it was actually in the very beginning when Tulsi was introducing herself. And I love this. So she was talking about her being a physical therapist. And then she kind of got into, how she's gone into like really helping women and, with all of women's health issues. And I love how she talked about that, how she loves being a physical therapist, but it just wasn't kind of doing it. So she kind of tweaked it and got into this more of a niche. And I'm happy to hear her say that because I want our audience to hear that, because I'm always astounded by the number of women that I meet that are doing so many amazing different things and the diversity of the women and the professions that they're in and how each niche that they serve is so important. And then you actually said something while you were talking about this and you said, not sharing is not caring, right? So if you're not sharing of your skills and I don't care if you're like an expert at growing tomatoes, then you should make a business out of being an expert at growing tomatoes because not everybody is, right? Like, I just feel like it was such a great voice to our audience for them to hear that you don't have to be doing what everybody else is doing. And there is a place for what you are doing. And you do have a voice and you do need to share it because there are people that need to hear what you have to say. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Cool. My takeaway is just being different in my profession since day one. Like this has been a 30-year journey of, it's always one of these things is not like the other. Like I always felt like I was different than everybody else in my profession. And what's been amazing to me, especially over the probably last 5 or so years, is realizing and meeting so many other PTs out there that are, not stuck in that Western track of our profession, and really like seeing it holistically, alternatively, in a true healing world, as opposed to that Western medical model. Like, it just makes my heart so happy to know that there are other PTs out there in the world that see things from a similar perspective that I see them, and it just makes me so happy. So
I would say people are waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway from today, Tulsi?
I loved the conversation on self-love in the beginning, that when you both were talking, and I call myself self-love queen. I think that's something I have to teach to other women, because I struggle with it for a long time. And once I've learned it, once I've mastered it, I want to help other women find it. What does it even mean? When you, especially the perspective of listening to love songs for yourself, not for somebody else, or from, so that I love that perspective. I think I was doing it in some way when I listened to some really nice song, my favorite song, but this just gave me a better clarity. So I'm taking that away and applying in my life.
I love it. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was a wonderful interview. I really loved it. And thank you also to our audience, to our listeners out there. If you're enjoying this, please subscribe, follow, like, share. The information that we've had here today, you'll find it in the show notes. So if you want to get a hold of Tulsi or Allison or I, or connect with any of the things that we talked about in the show, check out the show notes and you'll find it there. And what a wonderful show. Thank you. Have a magical day, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Tulsi.